With that being said, as we're going to enter into this, we do have the opportunity of a little bit of a caster shakeup here. So we are going to change halfway through, as it's no longer our initial duo. We do have the Vicky Necra duo.
Still contenders at heart.
Still contenders at heart.
Still
right?
contenders at heart.
That's it. Promote the heart.
Always.
You can't escape you. It will never be able to escape you. By the way, you guys got some moves out here. I know I tweeted out earlier. Kenobi, I see y'all. I see you guys. We gotta touch up on that later on. But I have to be on board with what you guys spreaded too. By the way, unfortunately I'm not down for the 3 Overwatch, but I feel like that's the direction that we're going to be moving in for this next series. What about you, Necro? What are you thinking?
I think I've got to go alongside you in the desk. I feel like just looking at the strength of Boston Uprising as a team and just how the San Francisco Shock have looked in the more recent weeks, I think Boston Uprising have this one. But I'm also with Kenobi. I'd love to see Shock take a map, and chat looks like they are behind the Shock as well. 28%, that's a lot versus the Boston Uprising.
Hey, maybe they'll shock the world out here. They'll definitely want to be able to put one on the board, but the Uprising look so good. They're sitting in 4th, I believe, in the current standings, and they've only lost against the Titans, which that was a good match to watch, and the Atlanta Reign, which obviously being the best team in the league right now, not an easy team to face off against. So Boston Uprising with this all-star lineup, and welcoming back Izayaki, by the way, who played out of his mind the other day. So I can't wait to see some more of this team, Necro.
Me either. I mean, I just love this meta currently because you can really see these major pop-off moments coming in from the support lines. And I feel like that's something that we hadn't had a chance to see even as much last year, looking at our first season of Overwatch 2. So I feel like it's just been really fun to be able to see players like Vindame, like Izayaki, just coming back into their rosters and be able to show us some really fun moments there. Kiriko, Batiste, Zenyatta, it's great to see the flex supports shine.
Yeah, and we get to see the starting lineups of the day here. We're going to be starting off looking at the San Francisco Shock with Junbin here. I know we talked about it yesterday, Necra. We've been seeing a lot of the back and forth between Max and Junbin. Let's see how long they keep Junbin in for this first game, if they're going to swap over to Max in the second game here. Something else to highlight. We had some funny moments with Heesang. He sank. He got hit with the car on Oasis. There was a lot of things. I'm not going to call him out. I don't want him to catch strays out here, but you got to take what happened in that yesterday's match, bring it over to today with a fresh, clean mindset. We're going to get started on Nepal so he doesn't have to have any issues with Rialto or Oasis in the situation.
Listen, if we go over to Sanctum, though, I have a little bit of a problem with the environment over there, and there's also a way that you can follow up the map, honestly, actually, on every single point. So, Vicky, let's not count that out of the equation. But for his sake, maybe hope that doesn't happen. I mean, to talk about the Shock, though, in their match yesterday, that was a stomp by the Florida Mayhem. Unfortunately, just wasn't close, and it felt like San Francisco Shock were not able to find their tempo, momentum, going up against a team that is as aggressive as the Florida Mayhem. Maybe with the Boston Uprising, the pace gets slowed down a little bit, or Shock can bring out something that's a bit surprising. Maybe not going to be playing into those mirror matchups that I feel like they just don't have the upper hand on.
Let's see if they made some of those adjustments. And you talk about bringing in something different. The Orisa, I mean, we got a little sneak peek of the Orisa earlier on here, and it looks like Junbin is going to be taking it out for this first control point.
Orisa is one of those tank heroes we haven't had a chance to see a whole lot of, but even when you saw the Atlanta Reign against their match earlier on this weekend, they got thrown off by a little cheeky Orisa strat there. So maybe this is exactly what the Shock need, a little bit of a surprise factor. Junbin's just going behind enemy territory right now. I don't necessarily like that he's playing away from his team at the moment, not holding down the front line, but he did get that translocator out of the way from Bird Ring, so you know that you've gotten a little bit of a saving grace there.
And already the point going in favor for the Shock, but they did lose out on Vindame, which is another issue that we've highlighted before. Always losing out on Vindame first has been detrimental in starting off these fights. And this is the space that Uprising are just going to give to the Shock for right now before they try to regroup on the point. Decay getting flowed all the way back. Currently see Proper sending out that pulse bomb before going in for the reset with the recall to try to re-engage here. But it's the stall that's important because they're going to be able to get some of this extra progress at 20% before the Uprising flip it over.
Uprising are going to flip it over. Lijigon already actually had the Valkyrie online. That's really impressive, just the amount of those damage assists that were coming through, as well as the healing. Decay and Bird Ring really been popping off. Izyaki's now able to cycle through with the Nano Boost to be able to give that over to Smurf, as Shocker's still sticking to this Orisa.
Oh man, Junbin out here spinning the Javelin, gonna be able to activate the Terror Surge and catches the backline of Uprising. Smurf is gonna meet them back in the spawn, but Nekra, they got some magic they're cooking and it's working with this Orisa.
Oh, they're cooking something spicy over here, Vicky, because that is probably one of the best individual moments we've seen from an Orisa in Overwatch 2 Overwatch League so far. Terra Surge worked. You got a couple of other kills on top of that. Junbin really popping off there, and it looks like they're going to stick to the Orisa for now. It's all about the rotations, though, with this particular hero. You don't have that shield anymore, as this is Overwatch 2, and so Orisa is a little bit more vulnerable. You've got to make sure that you are looking at your self-sustainability and playing close enough to Vindame and an LOS that Vindame can keep you healed up.
Good point, as we saw Hisan go down while he was about to build up that EMP. The duplicate now online from Decay as Burgery gets hacked. Literally one as he manages to get away. Decay just get booted out of that duplicate before trying to reposition, still on this high ground. Holding hands with Smurf, who also has the primal here. Izyaki's nearing that nano boost. They're going to use that focusing beam to find Finn. The backline in a lot of trouble from the Shock, and they get deleted here. Junbin a little late to the party. He was upset he didn't get his invitation, so with some revenge, he's able to find Decay and Izayaki. Junbin is upset. He woke up ready out here for this first map and finding right now 2 picks here, as the rest of the San Francisco Shock are going to try to be able to regroup on this point, because the Uprising are nearing that 40% mark.
That actually got flipped right underneath the Shock's noses as well. Junbin had to go try to play in that side room, but even though they give up a couple of percentage on the point here for the Boston Uprising, Shock are able to take it back pretty swiftly, and now are really working behind Proper's Pulse Bomb, and this is where Proper Go Kill has to be activated if Shock want to lock down this first point before something like the EMP from Burger comes online.
Seems to be doable. I mean, they're nearing already 95% here. You currently see the nano boost from Izayaki as he does get hacked from Hisang over on the inside. Junbin got taken care of right before he was able to use a Terror Surge. Now, as the Shock forces into overtime, the Uprising managed to flip it from right underneath them.
Hey, so Uprising, really nice picks there to be able to try to take that back, but this is where you really start to struggle a little bit if you're the Shock. You don't have the Transcendence online yet. You're trying to raise Bird Ring to be able to get that online before the EMP, and Boston at this point have a lot of sustainability to work with too. Rally is up, Primal Rage, and we're entering into that last fight territory here. If Shock aren't fast enough and they can't get these ults out quickly, then they might be in some trouble.
Even more important too, the Uprising didn't have that last expensive fight. They really only used that nano boost here too, as Decay does get hacked. He's got the Pulse Bomb ready like you mentioned, and they're about to get that EMP too, so 4 ults for the Uprising to work with here. My eyes are on Finn to build up this trans and Vindame with the rally, but again, they constantly have been getting pressed by Decay and Burgering, as Smurf is going to be able to find Finn. It's going to be able to get that follow-up as he activates the Primal. There's a backline gone from the Shock as the EMP comes out from Burgering. He's not letting Junbin go yet. After he made that swap originally from the Orisa to the Diva, he's going to be able to chase him down as the overtime is taking away. Isn't going to be able to get there in time, and that was all thanks to the Primal from Smurf to just push Junbin away and allow the rest of the Uprising to stall.
I was thinking that even with the Primal Rage, maybe even being able to boop Junbin off of the map if you timed it right versus the Diva boosters. But Vicky, that was still a pretty good round there for the Shock. I loved being able to see the Orisa choice come out there from Junbin. I feel like that was enough of a change of pace here for the Shock to really surprise the Boston Uprising. But I think towards the end of that round, you saw the Boston Uprising really start to wake up here, and Izayaki again just having such a great game. This is why we are so appreciative that Izayaki is back here for the Boston Uprising, and these are the pop-off moments that we really love to see coming out from this player.
Izayaki came out with the golden lungs out here because he has been putting in the work since he's been back, and he's looking to replicate that in this series right now. Currently getting started. Seeing some changes here as Finn's going to be on the Kiriko. See Izayaki taking that backwards position, trying to isolate Proper though out to the right, just giving in some of that communication. Colosseo Hisang over on the left side though, getting focused down as Smurf is going to be able to follow up with Bird Ring. That's going to be the first pick in favor for the Boston Uprising, while the point is going to be unlocked.
Got the point unlocked here, and Boston Uprising should be able to take this pretty easily unless, yeah, Izayaki has something to say about that. Look at the nade that ended up being thrown at the back of the point and really kept Lijigon up and active to be able to help keep this fight going here. Boston Uprising taking control, and Chalk, this is going to be a little tough for them to be able to get into position. These fights are going to go a little slow as you wait for Hisang on the Sombra to try to get behind the Boston Uprising.
See, doesn't get that hack onto Smurf. Decay is going to be able to re-engage right now. Currently C, proper, building up that pulse bomb while jumping, gets hit with a pretty big anti from Izayaki. He's taking a nap, forcing him to just relocate. He's got that health pack that he was able to hack originally. Gonna be able to call out Bird Ring on the other side. Playing passively around this point while the Uprising still have control over the point, as Smurf is going to be able to take a nap here. Not only did the sleep land on top of him, but so did Proper's Pulse Bomb. They trade that as Finn also goes down. Nana Boost letting Proper go kill, and that's what he's going to try to do here with some help from Junbin. They find Izayaki. He goes down without activating the Nana Boost, and I like the disengage call from the Boston Uprising. They're going to give this space right now over to the Shock.
Gonna give it back, but Smurf is right there, just kind of waiting for that perfect moment for those cooldowns to still be active and for the rally to come online.
Huge anti. Big out here too, landing onto Smurf and Lijigon, but Smurf still surviving. He's about to get the primal as Uprising have that point to 63%. The Shock managed to flip it just barely, but it was that re-engage from Smurf that allowed them to stall enough time to get some more progress, Necro.
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, too, Boston Uprising are really okay with walking away with 63% and giving up a little bit more to the Shock. They know that the EMP is ready. Trades.
Oh, EMP to EMP and the anti on top of that here, too, onto Decay and Lijigon. But where's the follow-up after Proper went down and Jumpin's going to meet him back? The rest of the Shock forced to back away. It was the pressure and the damage output from the Uprising that prevented them to really get much off of that Hisang's EMP.
Hisang's EMP also just came out so late. Birdring was able to grab one right away with the EMP, take a player down, and Boston Uprising just able to capitalize on the rest of the pressure there. Decay also getting Finn. That's devastating. Shock are gonna have to wait again and hope they don't get picked off.
Yeah, they don't have the rush here, too, and you're nearing that final fight territory in favor for the Uprising here, unless Shock managed to flip the point as Jumpin gets hit with an anti-proper, delivers that pulse bomb, doesn't get the pick that he was expecting as the Nano Boost from Izayaki is put onto Lijigon. The fight happening on this point, it's the Hisang versus Bird Ring fight here, as overtime, taking away forces Finn to use the rush over to the other side as Smurf has the primal. He's isolating the backline, and Vindame has something to say as he puts him to sleep. He's got the Nano Boost that he's going to unleash onto Junbin. They're trying to fight for their lives here, Necro. They were able to flip the point 25% now as Smurf pops the primal, manages to reposition himself right back to the point. He's staring at the rest of the Shock saying, you're going to have to try to contest eventually here. Proper does, but then he has to force out that relocate here as the rest of the Boston Uprising. Lijigon's got that rally. It's again more patience coming in from the Shock. Boston Uprising are disengaging and playing around the point in such a nice way because they're trying to force the Shock to spread themselves thin here. There's CC nearing 50% here. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Able to jump on top of him. Find him. Yeah, literally finding themselves in the pit. Izayaki and Birdring going down. That just leaves 3 up and alive for the Uprising. And this is a successful fight win for the Shock because they can try things up here with Proper getting that pulse bomb.
That was just scrappy as well. Shock Uprising really trying to juggle around the point to make sure that the Shock can maintain their holds. They don't want to give anything over to the Boston Uprising because that would spell the end of this round and the map. But Shock had to use everything that they had at their arsenal. They're gonna have to hope that Hisang's EMP comes up in time to be able to stop the Boston Uprising in their tracks, and that it's gonna be able to get the follow-up too.
Let's see how he's gonna try to utilize this. Super important. Lijigon also with the rally ready. And Finn's nearing another rush. EMP activated, lands into Decay and Smurf. Huge follow-up from Jumpin to be able to find Decay here, but Birdring is nearing his own EMP. See if he's going to be able to utilize that with overtime ticking away. 99-96 here, and Lijigon with the rally, with the Nano Boost from Izayaki, is going to clear the point and clear the Shock off of it. Boston Uprising take map number 1.
I like the celebratory Izayaki jump into the Sanctum pit. That's how you celebrate there. I mean, you did a great job. You gave the Nano over to Lijigon, knowing that Lijigon was in such a prime position in the front line to be able to take out the Shock. It was still very scrappy, though. The Shock were able to put Boston Uprising into these awkward positions to force out these more elongated fights where Shock were able to capitalize on the economy, but at the end of the day, the Orisa wasn't really enough to be able to get the job done on Village, and then you take a look at Sanctum as well, just not enough left in the tank after you got that EMP out.
DJ Khan really went crazy. And I think as we talk about the highlights from Lee Jae-gon and Izayaki, we got to look at the difference between what we've seen so far between Finn and Vindame. But we're going to talk about that on the other side of this break. We've got map number 2 going on to Hollywood right after this. Welcome back, everybody. The Boston Uprising take map number 1 in a clean 2-0 fashion. We are moving over to Hollywood, and we see some changes coming into the Boston Uprising roster, with Twilight moving in and Izayaki sitting out.
Izayaki did a fantastic job on that first map of Nepal, but when you go over to some of these maps that have those more long-winded attack points, you really are looking at Twilight there to be able to come in and take up the helm for that support role. This also gives you a lot of flexibility if you end up wanting to play something that's a little bit more inside of Twilight's hero pool, like Ana, one of the heroes that he's most known for. So you couldn't expect to see some of that coming out for Hollywood, as that's going to be our next map.
Yeah, and you got to highlight like the difference between of what we're seeing between Finn and Vindame versus the backline of the Boston Uprising. Like it unfortunately, it's something to highlight because Lee Jae-gon and Izayaki, their survivability in comparison to Finn and Vindame, for the Shock, it's not there. And unfortunately, we're seeing Vindame getting called out a lot as the first pick for a lot of these engagements, which we have been seeing from the Shock usually. But then when Vindame's out of the picture and Finn doesn't have that support, it could be pretty difficult for them to try to recoup from the damage output that we're seeing currently the Uprising put down.
Yeah, you bring up a great point there, and I think some of the other context that we're really missing for why Vindame feels like he's getting targeted down and focused down more often on the San Francisco Shock is that's just kind of the nature of the dive versus dive in this particular meta. You're looking at trying to get the main support off the board. That's going to be Ana in a lot of these cases with just the healing output that she does provide to the team. And so when Vindame is going to be playing that or playing the Brig, that's another great source of healing for the team. You are going to see the Winston, in this case Smurf from Boston Uprising, try to focus that down. We saw that yesterday as well from someone's Winston on the Florida Mayhem. And unfortunately, Vindame is just in that role that's always going to be enemy number one.
And with Proper sticking to the Tracer there too, and Lee Jae-gon having a great time so far. We've been seeing Lee Jae-gon having so much impact and stopping Proper from pressing Easy-Yak in that previous game. Now it's going to be the same case here with Twilight as the Uprising now starting to take the initiation, trying to take this point. Currently see Smurf already getting on top of this high ground here, but looking at Birdring being on the Hanzo, you have those more open sight lines here on Hollywood Necro.
You do, and this is where you're going to start to see Birdring and Heesang start to duel it out here on the Hanzo versus Hanzo. An off angle is going to be the primary way that you might want to play this game, and Smurf kind of getting caught with his pants down in the corner over there.
Finn says, I'll give you an ante and a sleep. And they made sure that he was not going to be able to get away from that. So nice disengage from the Uprising just to wait out on Smurf before planning a different approach here. You can already see Decay trying to take a more back-end approach before trying to re-engage with Smurf jumping onto the high ground here. See Shock, though, playing a little spread out, too. That can make it a little difficult for the Uprising to find a position here as they immediately try to press Smurf off this high ground. Ooh, and Birdring with a headshot onto Heesang. See him trying to get onto the high ground himself as 3 picks come out from the Uprising number advantage after they just only lost out on Twilight. It's only a matter of time before Proper is going to meet the rest of his team in the spawn, and nobody's going to stop him from already getting these takes on the payload.
That's exactly what we wanted to see from the Hanzo versus Hanzo, and it looks like Heesang doesn't want to play that game anymore. We're going into the streets phase of Hollywood now that the Boston Uprising have unlocked that payload, and so Heesang's actually going to go over to the Sombra, start to get that EMP charge rolling for the Shock, and there's also some great flank routes here for the Sombra to be able to work with. And you're also looking at trying to lock down these health packs too. Look at Heesang kind of on the left side there in the pack room, just trying to keep that away from Decay.
Building into their EMP is going to be that win con that they want to work with. Aside from Proper trying to terrorize that back line still. See Decay getting hacked. Huge here. We're just talking about the follow-ups coming in, and Heesang getting that first pick is great progress to build into that first EMP after making the swap. Lee Jae-gon does get hit with an ante, nearing that rally, as well as Smurf with the Primal. Good ultimates that are on board for both of these teams currently. Heesang just backing away right now, but reclaiming the space is huge here, Necro, because now this is also denying that high ground space that the Uprising desperately wanted to get through this choke.
Yeah, and if Smurf wants to take that over, you're committing cooldowns there, and that's where Finn can just kind of drop an ante on you. You have to invest your bubble as well.
Oh my.
That's a great way to clear space.
That is absolutely the best way to clear space here, especially if you're Birdring with a Dragon Strike. Make sure everybody on that catwalk is gone as Decay cleans up everything in that side room with Smurf, the nano boost onto Birdring, just for extra measures here, just to make sure you finish off what is left of the rest of the Shock. And he already got 2 picks at the very end there, but yep, that is definitely one way when they had the high ground advantage first.
Yeah, if Birdring's feeling himself on the Hanzo, then he should stick on the Hanzo here. He still has the ability to switch over to Sombra, which is a piece that we've seen Boston Uprising try to flex around, but the Hanzo's paying off in dividends here for Birdring. Look at that. You just used the Dragon Strike. Vicky, he's 50% to another one.
Oh, but Twilight isn't going to survive through this EMP. He's gone again as the initiation from the Shock comes out. See Smurf holding onto the Primal while Jumpin just used up his as he jumps right back on top of the high ground. Birdring gets hit with an ante. Smurf pops the Primal right after that. The rally now activated from Lee Jae-gon. Junbin just trying to control the space on this payload, but again, it's this disengage and repositioning from the Uprising, playing so spread apart that makes it difficult for Junbin to really capitalize off of a low target. They try to jump right on top of Birdring, but Lee Jae-gon being right behind him, he just used up that rally. Vindame also moving in here too. So much fighting going on as the Dragon Strike that you mentioned online again, clearing up the space on the payload, forcing the Shock to just give that respect while giving up the high ground here.
Oh my gosh, Finn might even go down here as well. Decay gets the stick.
The stake out here, gonna trade that for Finn and Lee Jae-gon. Twilight falling low. Twilight has enough sustainability as we've already seen for the rest of the Uprising just yesterday, and you can see Decay also finding proper. That's 3 out for the Shock, and they are nearing the second checkpoint. While finding these scrappy fights that are very similar to what we see on the first map, it's just a matter of their positioning to counter-rotate the Shock that has been able to find the Boston Uprising so much success so far.
And Boston are also waiting to be able to initiate on these dives, waiting for Birdring to get some major damage down to a target. Smurf having those cooldowns available so you can jump or be able to get a bubble down in order to have a little bit stronger of a close quarters fight. But you gotta start being coordinated here if you're the Shock. You've got to go after one target at a time. And Smurf is making that so difficult. Look at how he's just kind of locking down the high ground.
So I know Birdring has not died once, by the way, so far. He's just putting in so much extra pressure. They've tried to dive on him, and he just doesn't die. Look at this.
He just
tries to get the hack. Exactly. He sidesteps, and also Twilight is so on point with keeping him up to health. You can see him just backing away right now, playing in the back lane, but he's got this open sight line, forcing the Shock to play off to the side, not really close together with Junbin, who has the Primal ready, and he's about to get the EMP so that way they could re-engage.
These are ultimates that need to come online quickly here for the Shock, but they also have to be in the right position to use them. Look at where this fight is going to start taking place here. He's saying has to wrap around the Uprising to be able to get the EMP down, and you've already lost Vindame.
Again, you're isolating your supports, whatever about the EMP, because now you don't have the sustainability. Can you get the follow-up here? You've only took out Decay. Now Smurf activates the Primal. He's hugging your spawn room doors. That is terrifying. I do not want to stare at an angry Smurf literally primaling in their spawn room doors. He backs away in time. You have 1 minute and 55 seconds on the clock to get this payload to the very end. And with the Shock now managing to come out of those spawn room doors after the Primal was done, Uprising are going to give them the respect, going to be able to disengage in time just so that way they can find this different angle.
Oh, Birdring throwing the Dragon Strike to the side. That's going to lock everybody on the Shock into main.
Oh, proper though, landing that pulse bomb with the Smurf is huge. That's going to give some room to the Shock to breathe right now so that way they can reposition, force the Uprising back, and it's going to have to be a reset from the Uprising.
Okay, they almost were able to sink that payload over the line, though. They still have 1 minute and 20 to work with, but should be enough for Hussein to get another EMP online, which honestly should be a fight winner. This should be a map ender coming out from this player, but they just haven't been fruitful. Well, last one came in a little too late. Boston Uprising just putting so much pressure onto the backline. Vindame should be way closer to Finn right now. I don't like this position, even if you have the rally. Okay, but that's pretty good.
They popped the rally because they were able to isolate Lee Jae-gon over to the side and then now take care of Twilight. That's more time wasted away from Uprising's attack here, and this is a good sign from the Shock because they're going to have a plethora of ultimates to work with for this final fight.
Yeah, Vindame popping the rally and being able to get Lee Jae-gon down did buy some time for the Shock to get those other ultimates online. So you've got the Nano Boost and the Primal Rage, and as we enter into the last 30 seconds of Boston Uprising's attack push, you are looking at having those lock down the card.
The Nano Boost coming in from Twilight onto Lee Jae-gon to help him out as Junbin popped the Primal here too. He's saying just trying to get into position, dropping from the catwalk. Talk about those ultimates that are online and Heesan's win con with the EMP. It's going to be important since Junbin already used up the Primal and Vindame had used the rally earlier.
Looking at Birdring right now, trying to get the EMP online, and maybe there's at least follow-up here from Heesan's EMP. He does look like he's in a position right now, but Birdring is also working up to an EMP soon. You've got to start getting these picks if you're the Shock.
Activates the EMP, finds 3, and the follow from the initial damage comes in, preventing Smurf from popping the Primal and being engaged in this fight. Lee Jae-gon did have the rally, he activates it, Vindame gets called out from Twilight, the backline putting in the pressure from the Boston Uprising as Junbin holds down the fort, holds down this choke here. Proper is going to be able to move in, he's got the pulse bomb, and he lands it up to Lee Jae-gon. That's huge with overtime taking away. Shock holding onto this defense, holding onto the choke, also to the right side of the door here as Proper proper is making sure to take a look at what's happening here. Boston Uprising are taking so much damage. Birdring pops in the EMP. Vindame almost falls low, but there's no damage follow-up that the Uprising needed here to get more from that EMP. Smurf is still alive, but for how long without the rest of the DPS here? He makes a desperate swap over to the Widow from Birdring, and Lee Jae-gun plays around the corner, gets out of the line of sight. This fight is going on for so long, but with Birdring getting that pick, yes, the spawn room doors are right there for the shot to reset, but he's going to be able to find some of these important picks to allow the Uprising to get this payload to the finish line.
Look at that! He just has great sights onto the main. You're gonna have to send Heesang after him here, but is it too little too late?
They isolated Birdring. They knew what the problem was. He had open sightlines. They had to delete him. The EMP coming in from Heesang. Is this going to be enough? The picks came out from the Uprising. The overtime is ticking away. The nano boost onto proper as he cleans up the points from the Uprising. They successfully defend against Uprising. Just barely.
Just barely. That was so close there. I feel like Birdring coming out on the Widowmaker almost spelled disaster for the Shock. Look at how easy the sightlines were for Birdring to just sit down main, try to pepper down damage onto anybody that poked their head out onto the cart to contest it. And when you're in overtime, and the cart is that close to the finish line, you have to touch the cart, and that puts you right in the sightlines of Birdring. So really nice for Jumpin to be able to put the bubble down from the Winston and to send Heesang Sombra after Birdring in the back so that the Shock could come back in and contest with the ultimates that they had left.
I'm reeling for that one because the Uprising, they were getting those picks. Yes, the Shock had the spawn advantage, obviously with the spawn being right there, but isolating Birdring was so important, like you mentioned, Necra. Heesang understood the assignment and he delivered there. He was able to get a good amount of picks and did not waste any time. But that EMP at the very end, that EMP and then the nano boost that we saw onto proper, he had the pulse, he had the damage output. It was just another day here in the proper shop to finish off what was left of the Uprising on that point. But the re-engage too from the Shock, and then Jumpin was going to move in with the Primal. That was going to be a longer fight if that wasn't going to be the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, the fact that the EMP came in and the Kitsune Rush on top of it, literally everything else that Shock had left in the tank, that was enough. And also, hats off to Vindame. Those are some really nice kunai that got thrown in over there. So, yeah, you know, props where credit is due, but now we're swapping sides, and Shock, they do have a win condition here to be able to tie up the series and bring us into a map number 4, but gotta get through this defense of the Boston Uprising, and you're still basically finishing the map here.
You see Birdring coming out of the gates, this time with the Sombra, not the Hanzo play that we saw earlier on. Junbin getting hit with an anti, gonna be able to restabilize with some help from Finn and Vindame, but looking to your backline is Decay, and they shut him down almost immediately. Yeah, they lose out on Heesang, but 3 members out for the Uprising, just leaving Birdring and Smurf. They're gonna have to go for the reset, and the Shock now gonna be able to move in.
Ooh, that was a fast take. That was really nice target focus coming in from the Shock to be able to get down those key targets and also wait to be able to initiate the counter dive. As you called out, like getting Decay down early left the Shock available to try to go after Legion and Twilight in the backline. Birdring sitting and waiting.
I know it feels like somebody's watching me. Oh, and he called it out right there. I love Sombra Dittos. I just have to say it again. It always reminds me of the Spider-Man meme of just them both staring at each other and pointing.
Yep.
Especially when they call each other out and they detect each other. It's always great. And then calling up the translocator. Getting into it. So the fight for the high ground is starting. You can see backline hanging out up there while Decay finds Heesang. He's holding on to the pulse bomb here. Ultimate's online for the Shock too. Vindame's nearing up to that rally. But it's the respect from the Shock as they are going to disengage after losing out on that one pick. And Decay just getting to play in a sneaky angle to prevent them from trying to take that platform.
Ooh, this is going to start getting really difficult though. The fact that you've got the Sombra and the Tracer on both sides of the equation, look at the health packs and pay attention to where these Tracers are going to try to stabilize themselves. I think Heesang actually did a great job there being able to lock down this health pack from Decay.
I love these scrappy fights that we're seeing on other angles too. We had the Tracer 1v1 over on the side. We saw Jumpin holding on versus Smurf on the payload here. Now Jumpin activating the Primal. He's going to be able to get down from the high ground. Smurf still holding on to his here though, and Dame activates the rally, and they got shut down immediately afterwards. If it wasn't the pull from Decay, it was going to be the damage output coming in from Birdring and Smurf. So that's one other ult off the table for the Shock. This EMP can mean a lot here for the San Francisco Shock if they could get something cooking here, prevent the Uprising from setting up again on this high ground.
Wow, they're so split. Everybody is so split up right now. Boston Uprising have the high ground on lock, but where is the rest of the Shock? You have to start playing together as a unit.
Dame again? The first to get picked off. He, unfortunately, earlier on, we saw in the last fight, used the rally and then immediately got taken out. Now is the first to get taken out in this second engagement. Junbin's going to meet him back in the spawn, but this is going to delay the rally charge for the Shock. They needed this here to help with that sustainability. They have the nano boost from Finn, but again, it's just another reset here in this choke point.
I mean, the Boston Uprising are just playing this dive very clinically at this point. You want to be focusing down Dame, and they've been able to do that time and time again to be able to remove that sustain off of the board. That also means that Shock just don't have the same type of sustain in the front line. The EMP's good.
EMP only lands on Decay here, but they were able to get that follow-up, which is nice, denying some of that extra damage output that Decay could have put in as Jumpin jumps from the high ground here. But Dame now finding Birdring, getting a bit of revenge. Sweet revenge that he needed right there, but Lee Jae-gon has the rally, has been holding on to it for a bit. Smurf is able to find Junbin. Yeah, they lost out on the EMP potential, but they can just hold on to it for this next fight here. They've been able to hold on to these ults and rotate through them really nice as Proper gets hit with an anti. You saw that nano boost that was put onto Proper earlier, but Lee Jae-gon nicely forcing Proper off his back.
Lee Jae-gon has been so good on the Brig. Like, just series after series, it feels like Lee Jae-gon has really just been putting in so much legwork here. The Brig, one of those characters that I feel like you don't necessarily get a chance to see the impact of in the kill feed, but you can absolutely feel it because nobody on the Boston Uprising is dying at this point. There was a great reaction of Lee Jae-gon to be able to come in with the rally, to be able to save Twilight when Junbin was trying to dive onto him, and just overall, the Boston Uprising, they've got 4 ultimates to throw at this one, and they've already chewed off like 3 minutes of this time bank from the Shock.
And so always finding those backline picks that have just delayed the Shock entirely. And then finding these spread out fights too that we've witnessed as Birdring is gonna give some help, try to hack Hisang as the rally comes in from Dame. Birdring's getting to position to unleash the EMP, 4-man EMP, and Finn is the first one to go out. Jumpin gets put to sleep right afterwards from Twilight. Good follow-up here. They lose out on Smurf, who had the Primal, and Birdring's gonna go down. Finally, some signs of life coming in from the Shock as the Primal from Junbin, and right after he was put to sleep originally, is gonna be activated here. He's gonna be able to jump away in time right back to the safety of the payload and the rest of his team. And the Uprising now, with less than a minute on the clock, finally have to give them some room before they try to re-engage.
I mean, the Uprising, Twilight put the nano boost right onto Lee Jae-gon, activated the raid boss, and Shock just decided to back up from that because they didn't have the reinforcements to be able to contest with these respawns.
And then isolating Twilight on top of that while Lee Jae-gon now activates the rally. Decay finds Finn Dame here and gets the hack onto Finn. See Smurf activating the Primal. Finn forced to drop down from the high ground. Hive, help me! He gets down from Decay. Nailing him in the side room here as Proper's gonna be able to find Lee Jae-gon, but nobody else is left from the Shock. If Dame makes a desperate swap over to the Lucio to allow the rest of the Shock to get here as quickly as possible, because Necra, they got less than 15 seconds now.
They have less than 15 seconds, and they have very little left in the tank. Proper's gonna have to blink all the way forward, get this pulse bomb online, and land a big stick. Finn also really trying to work up to this nano boost right now, but what if Decay hits the trigger first?
Smurf coming in from the heavens, jumping up, dropping from the high ground as Junbin falls low. Huge pick up to Decay, but they trade it for Junbin, which is even bigger because Decay can get in quicker. Twilight going crazy, finding not only Junbin, but Proper too. EMP activated, and it's just a nail in the coffin for what is left on the attack for the San Francisco Shock. Birdring clears out the point, and the Boston Uprising finish off the second map.
Boston Uprising may not have been able to get that payload all the way over the line, but they're able to defend when it counts the most. And man, does the backline look good for the Boston Uprising.
Yeah,
it's such a star.
It's honestly, it really, just to be here, just truly honest here, it's a really big night and day difference from what we've been seeing from the Shock. We saw what happened and what drained the most time away from the San Francisco Shock's time bank, and that was those entry picks. Once again, being Vindame in this situation here. Junbin played really well following up from Proper, and we also saw some great EMP moments from Heesang. But man, Bergring also marking down Heesang, just waiting by his translocator. It can be difficult in situations like that, especially on a map like Hollywood when you want to fight for the high ground. But we are moving on to Havana, another map where having the high ground definitely benefits you, and you got those open sight lines, and that's going to be coming to you on the other side of this break.
Shock, your 2020 Overwatch League champions.
San Francisco Shock's Proper!
Proper is a generational talent. He's going to be in this league for a long time.
Look at this guy. He's running down Bernard. Then he just charges the Sigma.
Completely uncontested, tearing through.
Coming up.
Gindo tried his best, but it's not going to be enough. Finn is feeling himself. Look at him.
But only affects him. Rampage going to catch on a two and kill him, but Proper is there. Oh my!
Radiating some of that energy, because currently the Boston Uprising are sitting at match point 2-0 after taking care of Hollywood. We are now moving on to map 3 on Havana, Necra.
At this point, this is a victory lap here for the Boston Uprising. That last map was not close, and the dive just looks so clean coming out from the Uprising. So I feel like we're going to just get a chance to see a little bit more of the same here, as Havana proves to be another map that we can see just another look come out here from the Uprising.
Yeah, we get to see some swap-ups too. Iziaki's now moving in while Lee Jae-gon sits out for this one, and he's going to be paired up with Twilight, who, by the way, was doing such a good job at checking Proper. His sleeps, I wish we could see, like, just the amount of sleeps he got in that last match alone, because he was going crazy on that, making sure that Proper was not an issue there. Getting started on Havana here, too. Expecting some changes compared to what we had seen on Hollywood now, Necra. Maybe rolling out with Junbin Ramp.
All right, yeah, so this is a map that you can start to see the rush or the brawl come through here. This is a look that we ended up seeing a few times, at least on some of the Havana maps that we've had previously. But the way that this really starts to shake up is that it's not just a Junbin Ramatra. We've got a Widowmaker and a Pharmacy duo. That's not something that you see every day.
How long
you
is this
gotta hit him
last?
with the 1-2 though. Vicky, you gotta hit him with the 1. You gotta try to do something to surprise the Uprising. And maybe it's like the surprise a la Arissa that we're seeing here.
They hear them here. They're already gonna try to contest them. I mean, here on Havana, you see a lot of teams try to play right up close to the spawn room doors, and Proper is going to be able to see the rest of the Uprising in his line of sight, looking down the sightlines when they try to press the Pharmacy that's right above them here. And they do already find Decay, who is already trying to mark them down on the Echo. With Twilight going down, this is all going according to plan for the Shock.
It is. I mean, you see the Kiriko swap here now for Izayaki. Just going to see that kind of double flex support now coming through from the Boston Uprising. And this is a composition where you run it and you're really trying to get some heavy hitting damage out as quickly as possible. See the anti-nades come through from Twilight, the follow-up from Decay and Bird Ring. You can even see the Shark takedowns come through from Smurf. It's all about as much damage output as possible here from the Uprising.
Not gonna be able to isolate Proper here. He's gonna be able to get set up uninterrupted as Birdring once again tries to find some pressure. But with some help, Finn is right there, and it's not going to be enough. He finally gets the hack and then gets the takedown onto Proper. Now you have Finn in the backline needing some help and isolated because Finn Dame is attached to Keysang, and this is what they needed here. Birdring got into position and he executed perfectly, tearing apart, starting from the backline, the San Francisco Shock, just to allow the rest of Uprising to exit out of the spawn room door.
It took a little while for the Boston Uprising to figure out a way to be able to break this composition from the Shock, but now that Boston Uprising are out of the gates, that Pharmacy and Ramatra will just not work anymore. So you're gonna have to start to look at a different way to be able to play around this, because Birdring took out Proper's Widowmaker very easily there, and so you're gonna see a swap up of the DPS to the Sombra and the Tracer, and you've got Vindame switching off of the Mercy to this Brigitte now. A little bit more of the standard brawl.
It delayed some time, but for how long? Because now the rest of Uprising are going to get set up, pulling up front as Finn's going to be able to get that sleep, as well as find the pick onto Decay. I was wondering what they were cooking there with the Pharmacy, and we could see just blocking that choke with the Diva Mech, and Smurf can't get back into it. Jumping, getting that pick is huge here, as Birdring has the EMP to try to restabilize things. Everything's out for the rest of the Uprising, as Proper is going to make his way onto the point with Junbin, but they got a plethora of ultimates for themselves to work with.
They do have a lot to be able to bring into this next fight. I'm really looking at the EMP though right now. Birdring actually hit that so early.
Okay. And at the output that he was maybe looking forward to there, as Finn's gonna also use the nano boost that we got to see. Junbin's got the annihilation as the rush gets called in from Izayaki. To Decay, trying to mark down Vindame. He's nearing that rally, the annihilation. Already used up by Junbin. He's literally won. They are not letting him breathe. Smurf punching his way into his face. Less than a minute on the clock for the Uprising to get this first checkpoint, though, and the EMP now coming in from Keysang. Finds Smurf and Decay. No follow-up potential here, though. And minus Decay, who's trying to get away. He's got the recall now. We're able to get right into the safety with the rest of Uprising, but Proper hasn't been able to get these individual picks until right now with some help from Junbin, with that Vortex slowing down Izayaki and Smurf going down next. One by one as they fall, and the fall from Junbin and Proper, they're going to be able to finally clear out the Uprising.
Another scrappy fight coming through here from both sides. Smurf's Doomfist can actually put a lot of pressure onto the front line of the Shock. You're really hoping for Smurf to go toe-to-toe with Jumbin here and hope that buys enough space for Decay and Birdring to operate in. The Sombra versus Sombra, Birdring's gonna win out on that one. Try to build up to this EMP because you're sub 10 seconds. You need something to be able to get this payload over the line. The Shock looking to try to full hold this.
Birdring's tracking is actually insane here. Overtime now taking away, but the Nano Boost from Twilight was online and put onto Smurf now. Looking for the opportunity. He's about to get his ult. Gonna try to be able to reposition if necessary, as now the EMP coming in. Is going to be able to land right on top of Vindame with the Meteor Strike. Izayaki also falling low, just trying to reposition. Shock are falling apart here. They've lost out on Vindame and they've lost out on Heesang. Finn's incredibly low. He manages to restabilize with the health pack, but the rest of the Uprising, with none of the Shock left to defend on the point, were able to get that first checkpoint.
The way that the Boston Uprising controlled the Shock right there to be able to get that payload over the line in overtime and also be able to take out some of these big pieces was really big. You saw a lot of the fighting actually going on to the right side of point, not on top of the cart, as the Shock would have liked to be able to have the ability to contest that. But great way to be able to push this over the line here for the Uprising, and now you've got a lot of other tools to work with here. The EMP came online at the perfect moment, but it's really now up to Izayaki's Kitsune Rush to really try to push her way through the Foundry.
Actually run this next corner here too, because you know the Shock want to fight for that high ground control. Mention the rush as Junbin's low. As the Annihilation though, and it's going to be great for this close quarter second checkpoint. The rush activated now as Junbin gets hacked. He activates the Annihilation right on time. He was so incredibly low. If Birdring would have gotten that follow-up after getting the hack with Decay here. Smurf is trying to back away. EMP activated, lands on top of Birdring here. Twilight falling incredibly low here too as Decay gets cleaned up by Proper. Backline still survives, by the way, from Uprising. Playing spread apart, the Shock playing a bit messy and trying to isolate some of these targets for the Uprising, but they have managed to hold up the Uprising from now, win the high ground on top of that, and Proper is holding onto that pulse bomb with limited time bank in favor for the Boston Uprising.
Isolating individual members of the Uprising only works if you're able to get the follow-up, and Twilight and Izayaki have just been putting in too much work in the backline to be able to keep the Boston Uprising up and make sure that they don't fall victim to that isolation here. Birdring has another EMP. Vicky, I know we're getting down to that 30-second mark, and this is going to be the last chance that the Shock really have to be able to stop this payload. Otherwise, Boston Uprising could sink this one over the line too. That's a huge pick.
That is huge because now Finn won't be able to use a Nano Boost here when they were holding the Uprising so well. Losing out on Junbin now. You only have Vindame for the survivability, who's nearing that rush. Smurf is jumping on top of the high ground. He's going to try to deny the entry opportunity from the Shock while the rest of the Uprising are just going to cater this payload along the way towards that second checkpoint.
There might be a little bit of a chance for the Shock to come back into this one and contest. You can see Heesang actually going to go over to the cart to try to trigger some time, but Birdring right here to play Doorkeeper.
Holding hands with Smurf so that way you can activate the EMP at the choke point where Shock need to enter from Decay, finding Vindame, but they trade that as Junbin activates the Nemesis form, finding Decay, punching his way out. Currently see Smurf, who didn't have the problem using in that last fight. Twilight's near that Nano Boost and currently finding some of these trades with Jumpin' and Smurf out. Both Shock right behind this this payload here. Smurf goes out and you can currently see the Nano Boost and the rush on top of that. Proper has that Nano Boost. He's putting in the damage. He's got the cleanup and the triple on top of that. Proper with the 3K cleaning up shop.
That was so beautiful from Proper. Did you see how he was juggling that payload? Just waiting for each individual blink to be able to come back online, try to step over the high ground to be able to get just close enough to the cart in order to contest it, and waited for the moment where Finn was able to come back with the Nano Boost to be able to give that over and finally stop the cart in its tracks. Vindame's Kiriko Kitsune Rush absolutely helped out with that too, but that's a great way to be able to stop the cart in its tracks and give yourself a chance at bringing us to a map 4.
Working with what you got at the very end right there, you know, just using that Nano Boost. Jumpin' also popping the Annihilation at a great time before they had to re-engage with the second team fight there too. Huge here as we get to see the proper 3K replay.
Look at
Talk
that.
about his repositioning. Yeah, going back and forth because he's just stalling on the payload, which is beautiful. Isolates the back line, takes advantage of Vindame and the rush and the nano boost just to finish off whatever was left of the Boston Uprising on that point. That was amazing, Necker. You called it out right there. You saw the way he was going back and forth with the blinks, just stalling slightly above the payload so it didn't get any progress on that second checkpoint.
Such a strong understanding of how to stall out a cart long enough to be able to work with the tools that you have in your back pocket. Finn there with the nano boost. Yeah, just beautiful. Beautiful to be able to secure that damage and to secure the defense. But now the Shock, we're going to flip the script again. And while it ended up looking good on the defense for them on Hollywood, they weren't able to get the job done here on the attack. So we're going to have to see some more just high intensity gameplay come out from them to be able to get to that final box.
See Uprising playing way more back here. Smurf playing around that next corner, having that Ram Ditto, duking it out while he's giving them some space here as Jumping gets hacked, playing into that win con of Birdring wanting to boost up that EMP, and to get that charge, finding Isang is definitely going to be able to do it for you. Isang did have those open sidelines right behind Jumpin to try to find some picks through those windows that are on top of them here, but losing on a Hisang now with the Boston Uprising still holding on to the high ground. You can see Izayaki going to be able to now rotate with the rest of the Uprising, fighting them for that space. The Vortex right there on top of it. And they're playing so aggressive that it's forcing the Shock to just hold back. Gets another pick here now onto Vindame.
This is Boston Uprising just playing together as a unit as well. They're going in as a full conglomerate, is going after every individual member that they see standing in their way. And especially when you're running the Ramatra versus the Winston, look at how up close and personal that Smurf can really get with the Ramatra. You can just walk right through the bubble of the Winston. And this is the kind of a similar story to what we see from the Reinhardt versus the Ramatra, right? You could just walk right into the shield.
Almost got that save. Almost. Birdring saw the situation, also dipped after he just got a few shots in the nano boost. Now they lose out on Decay. He sinks back into position here as Junbin's going to be able to create some of that space. He does get hacked. Playing right off that nano boost and almost getting that primal, jumping on top of the high ground here to the safety of Proper, who has that pulse bomb. Blinking on top of the high ground, right on top of Izayaki here, by the way. Decay calls him out. The nano boost now from Twilight onto Smurf, but they lose out Izayaki. Hisang now sends out the Dragon Strike, splitting up the Boston Uprising. Amazing looks on the attack here for the Shock. You can see the way that they're playing spread out. It's also forcing the Uprising to not really narrow down that one target. Smurf is going to have to go down eventually here too. Too much damage output, not enough sustainability, and the Shock are able to get that first checkpoint.
It's definitely a balancing act when it comes down to playing split up enough so that the Boston Uprising can't follow up on a specific target, but also making sure that you do get those individual picks in order to just keep this attack going. This is a lot of time to be able to work with here, and this is usually a point that we end up seeing captured really easily, especially when you're able to get such a nice pick onto Decay. That's going to delay the defense coming in here from the Boston Uprising and give the Shock some room to breathe.
Just been on point with finding these picks here after coming back from being the first pick himself from Birdring. But re-engaging here, Uprising's got a nice amount of ults to work with, specifically that EMP as well as the Shock as well to try to match that. They got Vindame with the rally. Having to stay alive is going to be crucial here. So that's been difficult so far as Birdring tries to call out Finn and gets a huge EMP, finds 3. Can we see the follow-up here? He didn't catch Vindame with that, so he was able to activate the rally, just keep everybody from the Shock up and alive. Currently with Smurf also having that annihilation. They're just giving the Shock the rest of this space here.
It looked a little messy to work with. Looked like kind of Birdring pulled the trigger a little too early. Then the rally able to follow it up. This is looking desperate here from Boston.
Oh man, and then Junbin with a primal, gonna be able to clean up everybody that was on the high ground. This is doable here, Necro. We see the payload will stop right before that second checkpoint, and currently the Shock look unstoppable on this payload right now. You can already see Junbin holding forward.
Junbin's able to do that as well, just knowing that he does have the ability to go peel back for Finn's nano boost. Finn's on the high ground right now, making sure that he can keep LOS onto that Winston to really be able to lock down these doors. But Boston, they are coming in here with the pulse bomb and the annihilation. They're able to put that vortex down too.
The Vortex to control that space on the payload as the Annihilation gets unleashed from Smurf. He's got the Nano Boost to work with here if Twilight wants to put it onto him or onto Decay here. It's the survivability, but it's the space that's even more important to note that they were able to buy away from the Shock because they still got 2 minutes to work with right now, Necro.
That's a lot. Shock just have to back up from this when they don't want to give away any more alt charge into this next fight. while also trying to build up to their own ultimate. So Jumpin just kind of juggling around this wall, kind of peeking in and out of this doorway, waiting till he sees the perfect target.
Oh, great communication coming in from the Shock. That was, we're seeing some coordination now coming up. Not so much of the scrappiness that we saw in the last 2 maps now. Finding that dive opportunity, isolating the Uprising now. Finding 3 picks. Currently, the nano boost from Twilight is put onto Smurf here. You got 1 minute and 40 seconds, still enough time to work with as Proper puts down that pulse pump, and Dame is going to do the finishing blow here, and it's clearing up that side choke to prevent the rest of the Uprising from trying to stall. The Furbrain comes in from the high ground. For how long can he stay alive as Iziaki and Decay go down? The Shock shows some life, taking map number 3, sending us over to Colosseo for map 4.
They do look way better on this particular map. I feel like they were able to capitalize a lot on the more stable backline that we ended up seeing come out from the Boston Uprising. Kiriko maybe a little bit more telegraphed to be able to see where you're going to flit to with the swift step, and just kind of overall playing way more coordinated than what we've seen from the Shock so far.
Yeah, it's important to note the difference in positioning from the Shock right there, whether it be to disengage and then reposition themselves, but also he's saying finding a lot of these entry pick opportunities from that first checkpoint into the second one here, especially around those corners. The EMP also from Furbrain didn't get the progress that they were expecting it to get, especially from that second to last fight. The Shock showing that they're still in this, Necra. We got Colosseo on the other side of this break. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back, everybody. The San Francisco Shock show some life on Havana. You got that ping buff, you got that new housing buff, and you are out here taking one extra map under your belt while the Boston Uprising still sit at match point.
Boston Uprising definitely want to try to close it out here, though. I mean, at this point, Boston Uprising, they are locked, as are the Shock, to be able to play out the knockout rounds as we head even closer towards the mid-season. But Boston trying to get the job done here as Legion comes back into the roster over Isayaki.
Yeah, and it's nice to know what went down in that last map as we take a look at Proper out here. His tracer card and his stats from that last map that we just saw in Havana. 23 elims, 1 death, by the way. Actually insane. Yes, he didn't get the alpha from the Pulse Bomb 6 that we were looking forward to, but still, that survivability and peppering in all the extra pressure and the final deaths, too, that he was able to take from the Uprising, super important, because then this stall that we currently saw right here, stalling long enough to allow Finn to get that nano boost and then put it onto him and then finish off what was left of the Uprising, was a great look here to allow the rest of the Shock to then feel more in their element, because they looked a lot more coordinated at the end of Havana compared to what we've seen throughout the rest of the series, Necro.
I mean, that's just the Proper that we have grown to love after watching the last season of the Overwatch League. The MVP, the Roll Star, the Alarm Rookie of the Year. That's the player that the Shock were trying to build this roster around. And so that's the performance that we've really tried to come to expect from Proper. And that's a great performance from him for sure. But looking ahead to this next map, I mean, we really just continue to see this coordination start to flourish here from the Shock. They want to try to bolster up that reputation again as one of those teams to really be in contention for some of those top spots in the league.
Yeah, now as we move into our map number 4, Necro, what can you expect from the Shock to try to be consistent, bring this onto some momentum into this map? Because they definitely need it out here with the Boston Uprising taking a little bit of a breather. We saw them come back, maybe refreshing themselves to see what they got to do so that way they don't drop any more maps.
Yeah, well, a lot of the times when we take a look at the push maps, especially as like Colosseo is going to be our next one that we head to, we see a lot of like the Winston, Sombra, Tracer come out from these teams. We've even seen a couple of those rush strats come out. That was really London Spitfire yesterday, though. Of course, it's going to be a team that we do see come out on more of like that Mate Reinhardt, but especially when you see Legion coming back into the roster here for the Boston Uprising, I'm definitely expecting to see a little bit more Lucio, a little bit more of these mobile compositions coming through. Or just try to stave off the dive as it comes in.
Especially with how quickly Uprising is to reposition, like we saw in that first map specifically. Really good at calling out the disengage and then wait out on an opportunity to find that one pick. Seeing what we're going to get started off, rolling out here. Excited to see if we're going to see any changes too from the Shock, but it looks like we're just sticking to what was working here previously, and it's going to be Heesang still sticking to the Sombra.
So Sombra Tracer dive coming out here from the Shock, and Legion actually going over to the Brigida. I mean, this was a hero that really worked out well for the Boston Uprising when you take a look at how they performed on Hollywood with just such a dominant dive coming out from them. And the Brigida offers so much sustainability to the backline. That was something that the Boston Uprising just didn't have in that last map of Havana. And something that the Shock capitalized on. So it's not going to be nearly as easy to dive onto the backline, knowing that Legion on this Brigida is going to be giving the Shock some problems.
Let's see, they're trying to call like he's saying, is he going to be able to translocate right back to the health pack? He's going to get that hack on the pack as well. And it's the Legion being on this Brigida that had so much success too that we had seen, and Vindame being the one to stick to the Lucio so that way they can help heal for Finn, which isn't going to be the case here actually, because Decay is going to be able to find him first. He's going to get hacked as well, trying to build up that EMP from the Shock. But with that one pick, you can already see Jumpin just backing away, if he could get away, that's to say, because Twilight is marking him down, and Decay is moving up hand-to-hand with Smurf.
Boston Uprising are already taking over pretty swift control of this bot as it inches closer towards that very first checkpoint. Smurf taking control of the high ground as well is going to make it way more difficult for the Shock to come back into this one. And as you're set up so far forward, I mean, Smurf can really just back away, doesn't have to use any of these mobility cooldowns, and can wait for the Shock to make their initial approach. So one of the reasons what Boston Uprising has been able to do so well in this dive versus dive is they've been playing the counter dive. They're just waiting for the Shock to come to them.
Especially with the way that Birdring's been playing, taking advantage of these open sight lines. He's about to get the Dragon Strike ready here too, as Decay trying to isolate the back line here as Finn has that Nano Boost ready. Contending on the bot with him holding onto the high ground uncontested thus far. See as Jumpin also gets hit with an anti, and Decay being sneaky with that pulse bomb here, waiting to stick it onto Findane maybe, but Proper beats him to it, beats him to the race line, and it's Twilight and Lige Gone that go out first. The Uprising not having their backline, not having the Nano Boost or the rally here, but the Shock did have to burn up their own Nano Boost, so that way they could try to take them.
I think that's okay, though. If you're the Boston Uprising, you recognize that this is an opportunity to take an eco push, and so being able to get out two pretty high-value ultimates there in the Nano and the Pulse Bomb, now you're looking at trying to approach with your own combination of those ultimates as the Boston Uprising have to regroup here. Birdring is going to go over to the Sombra, recognizes that maybe the Hanzo is just a little bit too diveable in this particular format, and when you have this Tracer versus Tracer and the Sombra also on the other side, you need to try to contest with that one, be able to lock down these health packs too.
Especially if you haven't been able to mark down Heesang as well. Important too, but Birdring's already nearing 50% with that EMP and climbing already. Decay also calling out Heesang in his positioning. They know he already has that EMP, just counting out the fact that he's still holding on to it. Lige Gone and Twilight having the ults ready, Uprising basically all up to par in terms of their ult economy. Jumpin does get hacked and the EMP gets unleashed onto Lige Gone and Decay. Decay manages to get out in time with that just 1 second delay. You just call in a recall or just gets the health back here. Lige Gone stays alive. He's got the rally ready, so unfortunately the Shock not getting the output that they wanted off that EMP before they try to re-engage here.
Gotta pump the Primal as well as Jumden wants to try to keep this pressure onto the Uprising, try to force out any of these ultimates from them.
Oh my goodness, you got the Primal and you use the Nano Boost here to keep him alive. Smurf getting hacked as he's going to be able to match that with his own Primal, but isolating Twilight is important, but wasn't worth overextending as that's going to cost Jumpin his own life. Yes, the Uprising didn't use that Nano Boost. Do they need it now as Twilight is trying to help out the rest of Uprising coming out of the spawn room doors with the sustainability? Proper with the Pulse Bomb now, trying to chase down the Uprising as it's a disengage here, allowing the Shock to get some sort of extension with the bot.
Yeah, but Boston Uprising, what? They used the Primal and the Rally versus the Sound Barrier, the Nano, the EMP, and the Primal from the Shock? I think you take that trade any day of the week if you're the Boston Uprising. The Shock still haven't been able to match the progress of the Uprising either, and now that the Uprising are coming back out of spawn, the Shock have to back away too.
And they lost out on Proper here first. See, now Uprising re-engaging. Lige Gone gets hit with an anti from Finn. Birdring holding on to that EMP still. Like you mentioned, Necra, been very careful with the way that they want to use these ultimates, just cycling through it and communicating when they need it most, because he's about to get his own EMP for this next fight.
Yeah, but Birdring might just go ahead and strike first here. Look at the positioning.
There's that EMP and able to dive right on top of Twilight. It was the isolation that we've been seeing from the Shock. When it comes to these EMP picks, even if it isn't huge, it's about focusing down that backline, and they were able to find Twilight out of it. Currently, Birdring also able to find Finn before he could send out that Nano Boost here. It's about trying to get this bot moving as well. You see Lige Gone with some help from Decay. They're going to be able to get some progress here at 41 meters.
I mean, this is where it started to look really good for the Shock. He's being able to isolate Twilight. Feels like it was supposed to be able to spell success here for the Shock, but at the same time, I mean, Boston, they just know. They know they got to give up Twilight sometimes in order to really win the war.
Shoulder to shoulder with Heesang and Proper when they were caught in that EMP, and it's going to be their demise here as Jumpin's about to get the Primal for this fight. Decay still putting in some pressure over by that corner with some help from Lige Gone. And take a look at Smurf's positioning here too. Just going to be able to re-engage from the high ground here, and then tries to call out Finn, who's by himself, and Finn puts him to sleep. The Nano Boost now. Currently, while Smurf is going to try to get back into this fight, he's got the Primal, and he's found Findane. He's the first to go down in this engagement. Jumpin tries to jump away as he gets stuck here with the Pulse Bomb. Decay finds Finn, and Proper's going to get some revenge, finding Smurf while he's at it. Jumpin has the Primal to start finding some pressure on the bot, but going back and forth is another scrappy fight here, Necra.
I mean, at this point, too, Shock are just trying to get any work that they can done in the backline, but Decay has been marking Proper this entire time. And Lige Gone with a quick whip shot there will send Proper back to the spawn room, as Jumpin still has yet to use this Primal, Vicky.
He's so good at finding these whip shots. It's insane. Lee Jae-gon activates the rally now. Twilight did get hacked from Heesang. Junbin also activated the primal here. For match side, it's going to be Smurf who's holding on to it. It's fight for the high ground here as Junbin's going to be able to find Twilight again. Isolating Twilight from Lee Jae-gon's been important since he had already popped the rally before. Good timing on that engagement. Is it going to be enough now finding Lee Jae-gon? They don't have the sustainability, and it's going to be the Shock taking control over the bolt this time.
You're starting to run out of time here. You've got the bot back to the neutral, and you have denied Boston Uprising from being able to capture that very first objective. But you still have your work cut out for you when you've got 2 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock to try to match the progress and also take back control. Boston Uprising, they come back with 4 ults here.
Oh, the EMP coming in. Isolating Lee Jae-gon and Twilight getting caught in it as well. He's got the nano boost ready. Jumpin fell incredibly low, so the Uprising were so fixated on trying to make sure they could get that pick. Going back and forth on this bot here as a Shock now. They get EMP'd. A huge EMP from Bergring is going to catch Finn and Vindame, and Vindame tries to stay alive with the rally. He activated it slightly right before, and Bergring doesn't give him any room to breathe. He finds both of the supports, and now Jumpin's going to meet them up, and Uprising retake this bot.
That EMP has so many people on the Uprising as well, being able to take out such massive sustain in the backline early. Like, a Shock should have been able to win that, but Birdring able to sustain through it, be able to land the EMP himself, and it's just Boston Uprising constantly getting the upper hand when it comes to the ultimate value conversion that they're able to get on these pieces. Twilight as well with the nano. I mean, you just kind of expect that Boston Uprising will be able to keep up this pressure.
And denying Vindame getting any sort of progress with that rally that he had used from that EMP from Birdring as well. As Smurf takes onto the high ground again, sandwiches Vindame with some help from Birdring. He gets hit with an anti, the nano boost from Finn onto Junbin. He's got the primal ready, but Birdring now finding Finn. Can Junbin stay alive through it? He's got the primal to reset, but he's gonna hold on to it for now because he got hit with an anti and he got dove on by Lee Jae-gon and Twilight, who were holding hands in the back line.
Oh my goodness, Smurf's been able to play these dives so well. Did you notice that when he jumped up to the high ground, he split up Finn and Vindame, popped the bubble down, and then Finn didn't heal up Vindame. He just couldn't do it.
EMP coming in. Is it gonna find the same success that we saw from Birdring onto the backline of Shock? It doesn't look like it is. Lee Jae-gon activates the rally now. Give him some extra health over to the rest of the Uprising here, but this is huge now. Yeah, it's a it's a checkpoint, and he's saying that had used up the EMP that didn't get the progress that they needed for that fight.
And it's 30 seconds left. You would have loved to be able to see that EMP converted over something here for the Shock, but now they're completely playing on the back foot. Birdring has got the EMP to boot.
Finn again taken down. The EMP lands onto Vindame, and you got less than 15 seconds to match that progress with the Uprising. Twilight has a nano boost now. Vindame gets hit with a huge anti. He's about to get the rally, and they're trying to stay alive.
Okay, Twilight does get hacked, so the intel has been given over to the Shock that the nano is online, but you gotta be able to give that over to somebody.
That was big. Good positioning and primal from Junbin to get Lee Jae-gon off of this map, whipping his hands like he don't care, as Vindame also moves in to take care of Decay, what was left of his health. Overtime now that they can't get off this bot.
Overtime activated. You're looking right now at the Shock to be able to stay in this one by activating the rally early. Try to make sure that you have that sustain online, and Proper has to pop off. That pulse bomb has to stick onto somebody in the backline. That's a great way to start this off.
Yeah, or he's saying also building up into this EMP, doing the damage that he needs. The rally from Vindame is going to enable the Shock to move up, get into a better position, while Smurf is going to back away. They've lost out on Twilight and Decay. It's going to be 3 up and alive for the Uprising. Make it 2 now with Lee Jae-gon being gone. And the Shock are getting the momentum that they needed on this bot. A little late than never, but this is necessary now. Overtime ticking away. Smurf is going to be able to move in with the Primal.
Smurf has the Primal. 3 other ultimates are going to be coming online here for the Boston Uprising as well, but it's about making sure that you can convert this EMP from Heesang.
Oh, the EMP is huge here for the Shock, making it smart as Heesang finding Twilight, isolating him. Lee Jae-gon popped the rally right afterwards. That EMP had hit 4 as Decay is going to be able to move in. Proper's got the pulse bomb, still holding on to it, while Overtime has gone back and forth here for the Boston Uprising and the San Fran Shock. Decay holding on to his own pulse bomb. He's dropping down from the high ground. He finally lands a stick. He lands it onto Junbin, who still is alive thanks to Finn and Vindame. He's going to have to relocate here currently, just reposition onto the high ground. And Boston Uprising are giving them this space because they're looking to reposition with Birdring's EMP.
Yeah, look at that. He's got the cart right now.
Oh, the EMP on the backline and the anti on top of that from Twilight landing on top of Junbin and Heesang. The Uprising needed that one good play, and that's why they repositioned to re-engage with the EMP. They're able to successfully hold back the shock even when they started feeling themselves here at the very end, Necra. But it's going to be the Boston Uprising taking the series 3-1.
Oh man, it started to look so good there for the Shock as well. It felt like they were really starting to find their groove in this matchup, but Boston Uprising, time and time again, are able to stave off the ultimate pressure coming out from the Shock and be able to clap back with their own. That EMP coming in from Birdring at the very end there was the nail in the coffin, and just honestly, the Boston Uprising just looking great.
They look fantastic, but we're seeing some of our lower end teams, Necra, change things up and start figuring things out. You know, we have to give credit. Even though it was a 3-0, the Vegas Eternal have really made it close, have figured some things out here that they got to change up. We saw what's been going on with the Hanzo from Maltho. Now we're seeing things change up for the Shock here, making it a lot closer, finding more maps that they needed. And the Boston Uprising with Birdring being your player of the match. You highlighted him before for all the right reasons, but man, this was a great look between Birdring and Decay. These two worked so well together, but that EMP at the very end being the nail in the coffin was beautiful, as well as some of these plays that we got to see on Hollywood. Yes.
Yeah, oh my god, beating Heesang to the punch there so many times. Whether it's kind of like hacking a health pack that you would have liked to see like Heesang or Proper go after, or just honestly cleaning up some of these kills in the backline solo. Sometimes Birdring was able to grab somebody like Finn or Vindame just by himself. Look at the EMP and just being able to pepper in the damage on top. Birdring just was a solo assassin in the backline here of the Shock.
It was beautiful here. You see the 14 elims. By the way, look at that survivability. Again, survivability from the Uprising are on another level out here. Barely scraping by 2 deaths, finding these EMPs on the backline that were so essential. And you know what's nice to note is the flexibility from the Boston Uprising's backline. Whether it's Lee Jae-gon, Izayaki, Twilight, each and every one of these individuals just brings so much to the Boston Uprising. You're not losing out on anything here when it comes to making some of these swaps work out for this DPS and of course for Smurf as well.
Yeah, the support line of the Boston Uprising.
The birthday
has
buff
been
upcoming.
absolutely stellar, but
what? Birdring, happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Birdring. That's a great way to celebrate your birthday. I didn't want to curse it. I didn't want to curse it because like that happened yesterday. I feel like with the Titans, just uniting the cart, and I'm not gonna accept responsibility for that one. But
Necra, you're cursed.
I really am cursed. So that's why I didn't want to say anything. But happy birthday, Birdring. This is a great birthday gift. I feel like to be able to get the win today and to also try to gain some momentum heading into the knockout rounds. They know who they're playing against. And to be able to play up against a team like the Shock, I think you're experimenting a little bit to make sure that your fundamentals are in check to be able to take out some of these heavy hitters in those top 4 spots.
It's beautiful here. I know there's another birthday, I think, today in the Overwatch League. I think it's Admiral, actually, from the London Spitfire. So a lot of birthday babies out here in the Overwatch League. Make sure you guys give a shout out to both Birdring and Admiral. That's going to be it for this 3rd series. Guys, we got more Overwatch League action on the other side of this break.
Happy birthday from us to Birdbring 2. We see your Sombra play, and it is super cool. Hey! Yeah, we're going to make sure that we give some happy birthday wishes out there. It is awesome after seeing that game. A little bit of a fight back from Shock. You're just
sure was.
Happened,
I'm glad we got to do this live in person, and like you can see my reaction live.
Everybody can really realize what I do to Kenobi
on a daily basis.
But, with us talking about, things on a daily basis, for those that are support mains out there, we want to make sure that you have some awesome skins as well before diving into that match. Yes, support bundles on sale now. You can see those amazing skins right there, and not only having them specifically for Lifeweaver, Lucio, and Brigitte, you also do have that weapon charm for those 350 league tokens on sale until June 13th. So get them while there is still time. You don't want to lose out on that. I know I don't want to lose out on it because we see that Atlanta Reign is already like the top dog right now. You got to get your charm.
They're looking pretty good. Yeah, got to get your charm. And I mean, what a way to kind of like segue into this, talking about the support bundle, because the supports in this match are absolutely phenomenal from Boston Uprising, but I think we can talk about it a little bit more. I do want to give a little bit of credit to the San Francisco Shock going into this match. This was one that I was like, I just want to see at least San Francisco Shock win, right? I didn't expect that there was going to be, or win like a map. I didn't expect them to take the series. I was going to be very surprised if that was ever to happen, but there was one map, particularly that Havana, where I thought Hiseng and Proper for the first time both played at their best, and that is something that we haven't seen a lot of, right? Proper has been very good on his own kind of. Hiseng has been trailing behind, but I think in that map in particular of Havana, that is the best I've seen the two of them look so far. So that is something that I think is a bright spot for the Shock. Unfortunately, the only one in this series.
I mean, they did make it competitive. It was close to almost going towards that map 5, which I think we were all sitting there in the green room just like, oh, this actually going to happen? This going to go there? And then it, has the turn of events. And, as we highlighted, Birthday Boy, they're going to be able to clean it up. Sombra play, EMP, game over.
But, I mean, how good is the support line of the Boston Uprising? I think that, like, genuinely there are, like, 3 God-tier support lines right now in the Overwatch League. It's Atlanta's with Chia and Fielder, it's Houston's with Violet and Shu, and it's this one with Lee Jae-gong, Twilight, and Izayaki. I think the combination of, like, you can put them in any order, I think, and you're going to be totally fine having either of them in your lineup, right? But this trio, I mean, is on a completely different level. Izayaki coming back in, playing so well throughout their ability, after that injury that they had, a pretty significant one as well, and still performing like incredibly well alongside, no matter who it is, alongside Lee Jae-gong, someone who they won an Overwatch League championship with, or alongside Twilight. We saw the double flex support a little bit from them. They didn't end up winning because Shock were playing so good in terms of their DPS, but yeah, this support lineup I think is one of the best in the Overwatch League. And one of the things about it is that, like, when I look at Twilight, and I talked about this a little bit before, like the broadcast, Joseph Volmo-Franco, who's a friend of mine, made an article calling Twilight this many-faced god, and kind of has dubbed that nickname over to Twilight. And I think that Twilight, Izayaki, and Lee Jae-gong are kind of this 3-headed dragon, where it's like no matter what combination of the 3 you have in your lineup, your chances of winning go incredibly up, because the amount of skill checks you have to navigate, especially against a lineup against a backline this good, when you had like Proper going in. Proper's getting slept on cooldown, right? That's Proper. That's our MVP and Rookie of the Year last season. And Twilight, every single time, just putting them to sleep.
Well, the best part of it too is we actually do have some stats and information in regards to not only the relevancy of these supports, but also what they've been able to yield over the course of these 5 weeks and just being able to perform at such a peak level.
Yeah, I mean, these stats are incredible, especially like when you're looking at this enemies slept per 10. I think that's the biggest one for me, because it feels like, especially now with how flex support is being played in the current meta, especially with how Ana is, it's starting to get to a point where, like, if you have a really good Ana on your team, one who can hit these sleeps effectively, like per 10, like 6 enemies slept per 10 is an insane stat line from Izayaki, and Twilight's not really far behind in terms of their ability. They're more like DPS oriented with the amount of damage that they've done, but I think like overall, it doesn't matter which Ana player the Boston Uprising have in, you've got one of the best to ever play the game in that position. So I think it's something that Boston Uprising going into last chance qualifiers is going to be able to rely on heavily. This support line is absolutely out of this world.
They're so proficient, and with heavily talking about them specifically, we actually do get the opportunity to have an interview with Izayaki as well, and we're really excited to be able to speak with them. And after this type of performance that they had today, how are you doing?
Hello.
Hello. Hopefully you can hear us.
Hello. So Izayaki, I wanted to ask, what is your favorite support, Ana or Zen?
Yeah, absolutely. I love to play Zen because I can show you guys good performance than Ana. So I love to play Zen.
Okay.
So we got the Zen dominance there. All right. So with your recovery, how has it been being back with the team and playing with them like today?
Yeah, I really good to be back because I really want to play game when I was at the hospital, and I